So here we are again. Lovely to be with you. I enjoy these times. So I'm going to start today with a quote from one of your favourite authors.
Ooh.
So George MacDonald.
Mm-hmm.
So you've read quite a few of his books.
He is one of my favourites for
He
sure.
is. So I think he's probably, is he 1850s?
Late 1800s predominantly, I think,
okay,
yeah. Mm.
So again, I know that you like him because, I don't actually know where I think it was because of C.S. Lewis that you first...
Yeah, it was because his name was mentioned in C.S. Lewis's book, The Great Divorce.
Okay.
And then I came across one of his books at a church book sale.
Okay, there we are. So it's because of you that I know him. And again, at some point in time, I read this, so I wrote it down because I liked it. So this is a George MacDonald quote. I actually don't know where it comes from, so I can't, from something that he wrote somewhere. So it says, "Free will is not the liberty to do whatever one likes, but the power of doing whatever one sees ought to be done, even in the face of otherwise overwhelming impulse. There lies freedom indeed." And what I liked about it was, probably not where we naturally would see we think freedom is, and again, probably in some Christian circles, it can be that, well, I'm loved, I'm already forgiven, my name's already written in heaven, so I can do whatever I want, which in one sense, there's truth to that. I mean, the truth is, you are loved, you are believed in, you are forgiven. That's true. But the whole point of that is, like in this quote, the whole point of having the will is that the real freedom is I don't have to obey, my impulses, my thoughts, my fears. The actual freedom is that I actually can choose what I want to do. Like the whole point of, to me, the whole point of love, forgiveness is you are forgiven. So that means get on and live in that and do what you actually want to do. You're not trying to earn your forgiveness. You're forgiven, but that gives you the freedom to actually live in what you actually want to live in. And so, again, I'll just read it out because it's the first time you've heard it. "Free will is not the liberty to do whatever one likes, but the power of doing what anyone sees ought to be done, even in the very face of otherwise overwhelming impulses. There lies freedom indeed." And I even like the overwhelming impulses, things that, again, we're just used to, and that's just me, that's just what I do. But as we've talked about in other times, I mean, God is God, and so it's God we have a personal love relationship with. It's Jesus who's made the way for us. It's Jesus' nature. We have the Holy Spirit. So I can't say there's just this natural impulse that I can't get by, because then that says that God, Jesus, Holy Spirit aren't bigger, and they are. But that the real freedom lies because I actually have that freedom of choice. And I had partly the reason, I was given choice, but the reason I have choice is because of everything that God's done. That then I have something to actually live in. And that's, in a sense, that's almost what life, you're born and you die, but the middle bit is you get to decide what you're going to do with your life, don't you? That's the bit that you're getting to decide. And when you discover God and all that He is and all that He's done for you, and Jesus dying for you, then you really discover the freedom that I actually get to live, the way that I want to live, not ruled by impulses, circumstances, character, that sort of thing, which otherwise would dominate my life. That's where real freedom is for anyone who really believes in God for who He is.
Well, I like that even when you read out that George MacDonald quote. They say free will is the power of free will. I think it's free will is the
free will
and the power of it. And I was thinking like you have talked, I know, about the God giving us a free will, that we have this superpower of free will. And you're the first person I've ever heard call free will a superpower, but I think that applies very much there too, because there's I think it's Paul, but there's a verse in the New Testament writing to Christians, where let's assume it's Paul, he says, you've been called to liberty, but don't let your liberty be an occasion for the flesh. Don't let the fact that, like, wow, I'm, again, like you said, because Jesus has forgiven me, I'm under grace, I'm not under the law. I can do what I like, and it's not about, like, even when you say I can do what I like. Often when people say I can do what I like, what they're saying is I can yield to things in me that I really maybe I prefer not to have these things in me, but because I have these tendencies or these weaknesses or these likes and dislikes, not the dislikes, but things that attract me, whatever. Because I have that, then isn't it great that I don't have to worry about whether I do this or that, because God, in Jesus, has forgiven me and keeps forgiving me, and so because those words about your liberty being an occasion for the flesh, it gives your flesh, your godless humanity, the person you were before you knew God, that you'll never be free of in this life. But it means that instead of being at the mercy of that, which all of us are without God, you are free to choose against that. And that choosing against it is, often people think, that's just me, like, that's just the way I am. Mm-hmm. But there is also a Bible in the verse that says, the person that to which you yield yourself a servant, or more appropriately, I think translated, a slave to obey, you are its slave. Like the thing that you yield to, you think, I've got to do that, got to have that. That's me. I need. You become its slave. Now the difference between slavery and liberty are, of course, they're opposites. A slave has no rights. A person who's got liberty is free to do whatever he chooses. And again, I specifically said whatever he chooses rather than whatever he likes, because it is what we choose. And I think that there's something in us, and I think maybe in days in society and socially, I mean in human society, in days when, if you like, Christian values or moral values were different to what they are now, people, even if they didn't live there, they would admire people, they admire with people with certain qualities, and maybe even say, I wish I could be like that, or I wish I would be like that, but I'm not. But they'd look up to people. But now, a lot of that is diminishing, because the whole new philosophy now is basically like, just find a way to be fulfilled or pursue the thing that you enjoy or that you think fulfills you or that gratifies you. And because of that, lots of people look at, say, Christian values and normal moral values or traditional moral values as being restrictive, as being even worse than restrictive, in sort of denying you something. Mm-hmm. But I like what George MacDonald said, that really, if you allow yourself, and I'm talking about people here, not only necessarily, I was going to say people who know God, but even people who want to know God, and He's ready to change your life. That to come into a relationship with God does literally empower you to do the thing that actually in your heart you want to do, or to not do the thing that in your heart you don't want to do. And that's liberty, that's real freedom. And I like the way that George MacDonald talks about it, because that's being set free, that's real freedom. Yep. When you are not a slave to sin, you're not a slave to anything, you're not driven by the things that you think you just need in your life, even driven to achieve certain things that you feel you've got to achieve, or to have certain things that you've got to have. And even when there's pressures around you, so it's saying, you should be doing this, or you should be going after that, or you should be living this way, you can push all those aside and say, yeah, but what within me is the way I want to live, according to what I know in the depths of my being, in my heart. And that, I think, is the wonderful liberty of the sons of God, going back to that other conversation we had specifically about sonship.
Yeah. No, I think I guess it's that reality, isn't it? Like, say, the reason that free will or choice is a superpower, it's because once you know God, if you want to, you can choose him, and he's a superpower.
Yes.
As they say, but they say, I mean,
That's true.
Your natural impulse as well. Your natural, I mean, like, can I get past my natural impulse? Well, I don't know that I can. I mean, maybe if you're a very disciplined person or something.
Yeah, sure.
But I mean, by myself, can I not be influenced by everyone around me? Those, I always remember that example of in Dead Poet Society, where they all start off walking in, and after a while they're all walking in time, because without realizing it, subconsciously you're aware. So all those things, and you can start feeling like, I've got to watch me, my impulses, selfishness, society. I've got to ward all these things off, and I think, well, actually, I don't. No. I just have to choose God's ways, God's power. Like that's knowing that, that's where real freedom lies. And I guess without God, because it's actually knowing that He knows what's best for me. He loves me, He cares for me, created me, cherished me, so He knows. And probably in reality, I might think I know what's best for me, but I know that I don't. And I think, again, going back to Adam and Eve, it's that what Satan offered them was the knowledge of good and evil. And so you think it's not, he didn't offer them some other power, but it's almost like the knowledge to be able to say what's good and what's bad, what's right and what's wrong. It's that we're actually, and on purpose, God didn't want them to have that. And so it's that realizing actually that desire is in me. And say for ourselves, for me, I know that is true. Like God's actually given me and giving me my heart's desire. Like He saw it in me, and certainly far earlier than I was aware of it. And so almost He did see it, and so He knows that. And so now 40, 50 years after knowing God and Jesus, I know that He knows best, but still that impulse is there, that I think in a given situation, I naturally think I would like to do this. And because I think it's good for me, I would like to do it. And so they say, as much as I know the truth of that, I mean I like that it's freedom from those even natural impulses of how I think, what I look at, what I would want. My version of relationship would be, all the good bits, no conflict. But that's not relationship. No. But I mean, nevertheless, that would still be my version of relationship, even though I know not the reality of that. And so it's that lovely thing, isn't it? So it's the choice to I know God. I know His love, I know His care, I know His provision, and I'm going to choose that. And therein the freedom lies, that I can say no to this because I'm saying yes to that. Yeah. And that is powerful. And yet I couldn't do that without God. No. Incomprehensible for me.
Well, like you said, that when God created Adam and Eve, and He created, therefore, the human race, He created us with the power of choice. Because we were made in His image, and God is the one with the ultimate power of choice, so He couldn't make us without choice, but He created us to live in love with Him and with each other, and without choice there's no real love. So that sort of comes with the territory, or comes with the creation. But as you said, then when God said to Adam and Eve, like this, you can eat of the fruit of every tree in the garden except this one. And even that knowledge of good and evil, that was the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good. That speaks of experiential knowledge. In other words, in doing this, you will experience good and you'll also experience evil. And I think that there's something like God didn't say anything more about what that would mean. He just said, that's the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, don't eat of it. But the devil, in the form of the serpent, enlarged on it and said, well, your eyes will be opened. And like God's denying you something wonderful here. And that is that being, as always traditionally known as the original sin, which it was the first time that these wonderful creatures made in God's image sinned, disobeyed God. They had dangled in front of them the possibility of experiences that were ostensibly being denied to them by God. And suddenly, like when you think from God's viewpoint, He said, like, it's just a very simple thing I'm saying to you, just don't eat of the fruit of that tree. the devil says it's a very simple thing. All you got to do is take hold of the fruit and eat it. So one says it's easy to obey me because it's only this thing, and the devil says, yeah, but it's easy to disobey too. He didn't say disobey, but that's what he's saying. It's easy. All you got to do is take it and take a bite of it. So that is the potential that even if Adam and Eve were created with it, in their perfection, how much more are we human beings? Naturally, we have that within us. And that's why the only thing God counted on with Adam and Eve was that they would want to obey him. And that obedience wasn't an obedience based on fear, it was obedience based in total trust that he knew what was absolutely the best for them. And all he wanted that they would be motivated by that in their relationship with him. But for us today, well, it's the same thing, because what God looks at is, so what is motivating you? And he's not wanting to motivate us with fear of consequences. The consequences aren't what God inflicts on us. The consequences are the inevitable outcome of us disobeying him if we're foolish enough to do that. What he's saying is, this is what you were created for, and if you want what I want, and when we're God's people, that is in our hearts if we choose to live by it. If you want what I want for you, then all you've got to do is live by the thing that is in you. That's why God, when we become God's people, and God's Spirit comes to live within us and takes up residence within us, like He belongs in us and we belong to God. So it's perfectly, I was going to say perfectly possible, and in a sense, like, how could it be imperfectly possible? Like it is so within the grasp or the ability of every one of us. Once we come and open our hearts to God, and no human being ought to be living without that relationship with God, and it's available to every human being, then we have within us the means to reverse what Adam did and live not as we once lived, but as the sons of God, God's people, as Adam and Eve were created to live, just like for them, they lost that when they disobeyed God. So that's just the most beautiful, I was going to say freedom. It's like someone locked in a prison cell and just being given a key and told, like, this is the key, and once you're out, why would you say, oh, I want to pop back in and out of the prison a few more times? Which is how many Christians live. It's like, yep, I'm free for a while, and then I go back to what I turn my back on. But God's always good. God always gives me the key. God always lets me out again. That's not living in freedom. No. That's living in a sort of an intermittent slavery, which actually turns out to be true slavery, because even when you're sometimes indulging what you don't want to indulge, then you're never really free. It's just that you're not choosing to stay free in God. Yep. You're choosing to take it upon yourself, taking it in your own hands, to do whatever you want every now and then, whatever frequency, and then come out and say, yeah, but I want to live for God, really. Yep. And then we can say, but God knows my heart, God knows my motives, He knows I really want to live for Him. It's just I have this weakness or this need or these desires or these things that I like, where actually that's telling God a lot more about what I really want as against what I say that I want. Because God says, well, if you want it, then I give you everything you need to live by it, and therefore to live free in that perfect liberty.
Yeah, and I think, I often think that's say with Jesus, and when Jesus says, don't even look at another, to men, don't even look at another woman. If you even take a look, that's like committing adultery. You think, like, man, that's that's so strict. But you realize again, it's out of love and care, because I know what you're like. I mean, I guess, Jesus, I lived as a man. I know what it's like. And you think that, like, I'm going to come back to this. I'm just going to quickly duck over here. Like, you even thinking the example of Adam and Eve. Because God didn't say there'd be any consequences, but He told you don't do that. So almost it's that human thing. Don't do what? Like as soon as you're told not to. Yeah. What? So what shouldn't I be having? What shouldn't I be having a look at? But you realize that, like, God, like, again, in Jesus talking about looking at a woman in that way in adultery, like, you realize what he's saying, like, don't think that you can handle it, because you can't. So you can start thinking like, oh, I really love God that much, but don't be fooled by the reality that, those thoughts, feelings, desires, lusts, the stuff, they're all that they don't go away. And so, like, talking about the impulses, like, don't think they don't. And so in that sense, make sure you're choosing God, because that, like, say, I haven't become, I haven't got it. I haven't become super powerful. I know how to make a choice and choose this God, which is super. And so, but the danger is, it's always still a choice, isn't it? So that's that danger for us, and the reality of living in it, like, which comes out, like, God knows what's best. When he gives you a warning, it's not to restrict you.
No.
It's actually to keep you living in freedom. Yeah, and so that, like, again, to use your example of the prison cell, if he said, just remember, don't come back in here again. Don't be tempted to come again. Why would you tell me not to be tempted? I'm not going to be tempted to come back in here again. Like, I've got freedom. But the reality is, at certain times, it is going to appeal to you, isn't it? Like, I almost don't want to know that of myself, but it is. That kind of safety, security, the known. Like, because on one hand, freedom sounds great. Like you were saying, things that feel like they're freedom are actually slavery. Yeah. On the other hand, freedom, which sounds great, often it's scary, isn't it? Because it's like, it's unknown, or where's the measures? Like, because it's always, how do I know that I'm doing what I should be doing, or how do I know that I'm doing everything I should be doing? I'm always looking for some kind of measures or something like that. So it's even just that reality for us too, isn't it? That what we think of as freedom, often the freedom to do what we want is actually slavery. Yeah. On the other hand, what true freedom is that God's talking about is wonderful, but those impulses will go off that make you feel, let's say, scared, nervous, unsure. I mean, say with you, even in your life walk with God, when you were, in a sense, living and doing more what everyone else was doing, it feels safer. When you start feeling like, I'm doing this and no one else is, or I'm doing something that's more unexplainable, or then it does get trickier, because exactly for that reason, and so again, I think there's just that natural part of me that wants to do what everyone else is doing. I think partly just because it's safer, and it seems, well, they all seem to know what they're doing, and so it's not doing what everyone else is doing, but it's that being really true to God and knowing that that's what freedom actually means, is, again, being true to God and to nothing else, which includes me and my thoughts and that, but also includes whatever else is happening around you, because that's really the freedom. The freedom that Jesus showed us how to live in, the freedom that Jesus actually lived in, and that's that way that he really made for us to walk in. But the truth is, it is scary, or certainly scary at times, for us to walk in that.
It is, and I think, like, in the society we live in today, from one viewpoint, I was going to call it a godless society, but in many ways now, it's becoming increasingly an anti-God society, where God's ways are actually not just being disregarded, being gone against, and within that, people are more and more, in all sorts of ways, being told or encouraged to believe that they really are powerless to be other than what they are, or what they perceive themselves to be. So just throw yourself into that. And when you think, like, what God created us to be, and if you take God out of the equation, people might as well surrender to whatever it is that they feel like surrendering to, because there is no hope. But because God is God, and we are made in his image, and we are here to glorify him and to be fulfilled in the way that God always meant us to be, that's the freedom to become God's sons, to become everything that he made us to be. And that freedom is an exhilarating freedom. But like you said, there's also a scary aspect to it too, because to live in that sort of relationship with God there's no knowing where your life will go.
No.
And there's a fundamental thing that therefore it's a life of faith, because what you're believing is, because I just want to live for God, I surrender my life to God, and I couldn't be in better hands. So I don't need to know the future. I just need to know that is my heart's desire. I'm living for God. And God frees me, God keeps me free to do his will. But I say, well, no, that's too much unknown. Let's stick to the thing that I know. Let's stick to what the people around me say is okay. Let's, discover my inner self. And I don't know about trusting God, or even if there is a God. But because there is not just a God who is intricately involved in his love for people, and therefore in the lives of people, if they will allow him to make himself known to them. Like God's got no other focus for his love but the human race.
No.
And to realize that is to say, well, why do I need to come into this sort of relationship with anything or anybody, including myself, more than God? Because if I come into a relationship with God, I find my fulfillment, but I find that I really can live the way I want to. Mm-hmm. That is perfectly possible. Mm-hmm. That I am a truly free person, and anything else really is slavery and bondage.
Mm-hmm. Well, I love in recent church service we sang that song, and it has that line, your pleasure is my desire. Yeah. And how wonderful. They say it's not, is that what I have to do? I say I need to that's like say to get the tick. I need to but actually it's actually true, and that's what you keep. Not just have discovered, keep discovering. Mm. That is my desire, is God's pleasure.
Yes.
My desire is to live in love with Him. My desire is to glorify and it's the fact that it's my desire, and then that I can do that because of God Himself. That's a miracle, and so it's like that. It's not so much whether do I love freedom or not love freedom. It's actually that's what I was created for. That's where God lives. That's where He wants me to live, in that freedom of my will that keeps being given to Him. Because my will is to give my will to Him. It's almost goes around. I have free will. My free will choice is to give my will to God. Yeah. My free will choice again is to give my free will choice to God. And that actually is the fulfillment. And I actually feel like I've discovered that actually is the desire. And I say it's true. It's not like it's something I have to put on.
No,
that's the truth of. Again, I believe, certainly my experience, but of every human, whether you're aware of it or not, because that's that innate desire, because we're of God, to be loved and to love. That's there inside each of us.
Yeah,
which is wonderful.
Before we finish, and we're probably running out of time, but I'd like to finally focus us on, in that regard, what Jesus said about being the good shepherd of the sheep, and he talked about the shepherd and his relationship with the sheep, and the thief whose relationship with the sheep is purely focused on stealing them for his own benefit. And Jesus said that the thief comes only to steal and to kill and to destroy the sheep. And then Jesus said, I've come that they might have life. I'll rephrase, I am come that they might have life, and that they might have it more abundantly. So on the one hand, you see the thief, that's the devil. That's the devil who's rampant in this world, the devil who led Adam and Eve astray, who says, sure, I'll, whatever you want, I'm here for you, you can have a great life. But he's seen any way that he can to get those sheep. But his whole focus is stealing, killing, and destroying them. And Jesus is saying, I am the true shepherd, and I've come just for this, that you might have life, and that you might have it more abundantly. And that, to me, that's the freedom, is the abundant life in Him. Mm-hmm. And that's what the world, the flesh, and the devil offer, is that what will ultimately take you away from God and kill and destroy you.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's say, in a sense, no interest. Let's say, with Adam and Eve, the devil's interest was purely that they didn't live for God. It's not, I want you to have. I actually just don't want you to do that. And so that's
right.
And where you say God's interest in you is to, so you actually really
Yes.
live, you really love, and that we have love relationship.
Yeah.
So opposite, and that's what you discovered. I think, like, you know, through the, you're older than I am, so your life, I mean, you've just, through everything that you've walked through in response to God, that's what you've discovered.
Yeah.
Lots of varying ways, varying circumstances, some more, in human terms, more blessed circumstances, some more trying circumstances. But you know, like, it's not just, that's the theory, like, it's true. I mean,
Yeah.
what you've discovered is more of God's love, care for you, that God, you know, God actually has, you know, knows what's best for you,
Yeah.
and that's what He's always working towards.
Yeah.
If you respond to Him, and so you don't look. It's not, you don't look back on your life and think, oh yeah, it's been okay, or, you know, been the tough times. I mean, actually, it's with God. It really has all been, you know, wonderful, because
Yeah.
God actually does
Yeah.
love you. He cares for you, and He actually, you know, has life for you, and that,
Yes.
and that's what you've actually experienced. And I,
That's right.
like, say, for me, yeah, I've loved. But that's what you've passed on, because it's the truth. You know, it's not, you know, whatever, 60 plus years of walking with God. Well, okay, you got to be careful. Sometimes it's kind of like, give yourself to it, abandon yourself to it, because there is nothing like living in love with God.
Yes.
Because there's not.
No, absolutely.
Because there's nothing like
no.
God.
It's what we were made for.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's wonderful. Okay, we will leave that there.